Hello, children. This is Grandma Carla, and I am here again with Hannah, my granddaughter, and she's going to read us chapter 3 of Ramona and Her Mother. Do we have someone else who wants
Ramona
to sit?
And Her Father.
Oh, excuse me, Ramona and Her Father. And this is Nathan come to join us here.
So we're going to read chapter 3, The Night of the Jack-O-Lantern. Please pass the Tommy Toes, said Ramona, hoping to make someone in the family smile. She felt good when her father smiled as he passed her the bowl of stewed tomatoes. He smiled less and less as the days went by and he had not found work. Too often he was just plain cross. Ramona had learned not to rush home from school and say, "Did you find a job today, Daddy?" Miss Quimby always seemed to look anxious these days, either over the cost of groceries or the money the family owed. Beezus had turned into a regular old grouch because she dreaded creative writing, and perhaps because she had reached that difficult age Miss Quimby was always talking about. Although Ramona found this hard to believe, even Picky was not himself. He lashed his tail and stalked angrily away from his dishes when Beezus served him puss putty, the cheapest brand of cat food Miss Quimby could find in the market. All this worried Ramona. She wanted her father to smile and joke, and her mother to look happy, and her sister to be cheerful, and Picky to eat his food, and wash his whiskers and purr the way he used to. And so, Mr. Quimby was saying, at the end of the interview for the job, the man said he would let me know if anything turned up. Miss Quimby sighed. "Let's hope you hear from him. Oh, by the way, the car's been making a funny noise, a sort of tappity sound. It's Murphy's Law," said Mr. Quimby. "Anything that can go wrong will." Ramona knew her father was not joking this time. Last week, the washing machine refused to work. The Quimbys had been horrified at the size of the repair bill. "I like Tommy Toes," said Ramona, hoping her little joke would work a second time. This is not exactly true, but she was willing to sacrifice. Still, no one paid any attention. Ramona spoke louder as she lifted the bowl of stewed tomatoes. Does anybody want Tommy Toes?" she asked. The bowl tipped. Miss Quimby silently reached over and wiped spilled juice from the table with a napkin. Crestfallen, Ramona set the bowl down. No one had smiled. "Ramona," said Mr. Quimby, "my grandmother used to have a saying. First time is funny, second time is silly, and third time is the spanking." Ramona looked down at her placemat. Nothing seemed to go right lately. Picky must have felt the same way. He sat down beside Beezus and meowed his crossest smile. Mr. Quimby lit a cigarette and asked his older daughter, "Haven't you fed the cat yet?" Beezus rose to clear the table. "It wouldn't do any good. He hasn't eaten his breakfast. He won't eat the cheap puss putty." "Too bad about him." Mr. Quimby blew a cloud of smoke towards the ceiling. "He goes next door and mews as if we never give him anything to eat. It's embarrassing. He'll just have to learn to eat what we can afford, or we will have to get rid of him." This statement shocked Ramona. Picky had been a member of the family since before she was born. "Well, I don't blame him," said Beezus, picking up the cat and pressing her cheek against his fur. "Puss Putty stinks." Mr. Quimby ground out his cigarette. "Guess what?" said Miss Quimby, as if to change the subject. Howie's grandmother drove out to visit her sister, who lives on a farm, and her sister sent in a lot of pumpkins for jack-o'-lanterns for the neighborhood children. Miss Kemp gave us a big one, and it's down in the basement waiting to be carved. Me, cried Ramona. "Let me go get it. Let's give it a real scary face," said Beezus, no longer difficult. "I'll have to sharpen my knife," said Mr. Quimby. "Run along and bring it, Ramona," said Miss Quimby with a real smile. Relief flooded through Ramona. Her family had returned to normal. She snapped on the basement light, thumped on the stairs, and there in the shadow of the furnace pipes which reached out like ghostly arms, was a big round pumpkin. Ramona grasped its scratchy stem, found the pumpkin too big to lift that way, bent over, hugged it with both arms, and raised it from the cement floor. The pumpkin was heavier than she had expected, and she must not let it drop and smash all over the concrete floor. Need some help, Ramona? Miss Quimby called down the stairs. I can do it. Ramona felt for each step with her feet and emerged victorious into the kitchen. Wow, that is a big one. Mr. Quimby was sharpening his knife on a whetstone while Ramona and her mother hurried through the dishes. A pumpkin that size would cost a lot at the market, Miss Quimby remarked. A couple of dollars at least. Let's give it eyebrows like last year, said Ramona. And ears, said Beezus. And lots of teeth, added Ramona. There would be no jack-o'-lantern with one tooth and 3 triangles for eyes and a nose, and in the Quimby's front window on Halloween. Mr. Quimby was the best pumpkin carver on Click-a-Tat Street. Everybody knew that. Let's see now. Mr. Quimby studied the pumpkin, turning it to find the best side for the face. I think the nose should go about here. With a pencil, he sketched a nose-shaped nose, not a triangle, while his daughters leaned on their elbows to watch. Shall we have it a smile or a frown? He asked. Smile, said Ramona, who had had enough frowning. Frown, said Beezus. The mouth turned up on one side and down on the other. The eyes were sketched in eyebrows. Very expressive, said Mr. Quimby. Something between a leer and a sneer. He cut a circle around the top of the pumpkin and lifted it off for a lid. Without being asked, Ramona found a big spoon for scooping out the seeds. Picky came into the kitchen to see if something besides Puss Pity had been placed in the dish. When he found it had not, he paused, sniffed the unfamiliar pumpkin smell, and with his tail twitching angrily, stalked out of the kitchen. Ramona was glad Beezus did not notice. If we don't let the candle burn in the jack-o'-lantern, we can have pumpkin pie, said Miss Quimby. I can freeze some of the pumpkin for Thanksgiving. Mr. Quimby began to listen as he carved with skill and care. First a mouthful of teeth, with each one neat and square, then eyes and jagged, ferocious eyebrows. He was working on 2 ears shaped like question marks when Miss Quimby said, "Bedtime, Ramona." I'm going to stay up until Daddy finishes, Ramona informed her family. No ifs, ands, or buts. Run along and take your bath, said Miss Quimby, and you can watch a while longer. Because her family was happy once more, Ramona did not protest. She returned quickly, however, still damp under her pajamas, to see what her father had thought of next. Here, that's what he thought of. Something he could carve because the pumpkin was so big. He cut a few C-shaped curls around the hole in the bottom of the pumpkin before he reached inside and hollowed out a candle holder in the bottom. There, he said, and went his jackknife under the kitchen faucet. A work of art. Miss Quimby found a candlestick, inserted it into the pumpkin, lit it, and set the lid in place. Ramona switched off the light. The jack-o'-lantern veered and sneered in the flickering flame. Oh, Daddy! Ramona threw her arms around her father. It's the wickedest jack-o'-lantern in the world. Mr. Quimby kissed the top of Ramona's head. Thank you. I take that as a compliment. Now run along to bed. Ramona could tell by the sound of her father's voice that he was smiling. She ran off to her room without thinking up excuses to stay up just 5 more minutes, adding a postscript to her prayers, thanking God for the big pumpkin and asking him to find her father a job, and fell asleep at once, not bothering to tuck her panda in beside her for comfort. In the middle of the night, Ramona found herself suddenly awake without knowing she was awake. Had she heard a noise? Yes, she had. Tense, she listened hard. There was again a sort of thumping, scuffling noise, not very loud, but just the same. Silence. Then she heard it again. Inside the house. In the kitchen. Something was in the kitchen, and it was moving. Ramona's mouth was so dry she could barely whisper, "Daddy!" No answer. More thumping. Someone bumped against the wall. Something was coming to get them. Ramona thought about the leering, snaring face on the kitchen table. All the ghost stories she had ever heard, all the ghostly pictures she had ever imagined, she had ever seen, flew through her mind. Could the jack-o'-lantern have come to life? Of course not. It was only a pumpkin, but still. A bodiless, leering head was too horrifying to think about. Ramona sat up in bed and shrieked, "Daddy!" A light came on in her parents' room and beat thumped on the floor. Ramona tussled her father and rumpled pajamas was still hooted in Ramona's doorway, followed by her mother, tugging a robe on over her short nightgown. "What is it, baby?" said Mr. Quimby. Both Ramona's parents called her baby when they were worried about her, and tonight Ramona was so relieved she did not mind. "Was it a bad dream?" asked Miss Quimby. "There's something in the kitchen." Ramona's voice quavered. Beatrice, only half awake, joined the family. "What's happening?" she asked. "What's going on?" "There's something in the kitchen," said Ramona, feeling braver. "Something moving." "Shh, shh," commanded Mr. Quimby. Tense the family and listened to silence. "You just had a bad dream." Miss Quimby came into the room, kissed Ramona, and said, "Tuck her in." Ramona pushed her blanket away. "It was not a bad dream," she insisted. "I did too hear something spooky." "All we have to do is look," said Mr. Quimby, reasonably. And bravely, Ramona thought. Nobody would get her into that kitchen. Ramona waited, scarcely breathing, fearing for her father's safety as he walked on into the hall and flipped on the kitchen light. No shout, no yell came from that part of the house. Instead, her father laughed, and Ramona felt brave enough to follow the rest of the family to see what was funny. There was a strong smell of cat food in the kitchen. What Ramona saw and what Beatrice saw did not strike them as one bit funny. Their jack-o'-lantern. The jack-o'-lantern their father had worked so hard to carve no longer had a whole face. Right at its forehead, one ferocious eye, one ferocious eyebrow, one eye, and part of its nose was gone, replaced by a jagged hole edged by little teeth marks. Picky was crouched in guilt under the kitchen table. "The nerve of that cat! Bad cat! Bad cat!" shrieked Ramona, stamping her bare foot on the cold linoleum. The old yellow cat fled to the dining room table, where he crouched under the table, his eyes glittering out of the darkness. Miss Quimby caught up a small, rueful laugh. "I knew he liked cantaloupe, but I had no idea he liked pumpkin, too." With a butcher's knife, she began to cut up the remains of the jack-o'-lantern, carefully removing, Ramona noticed, the parts with teeth marks. "I told you he wouldn't eat that awful puss putty." Beatrice was accusing her father of denying the cat. "Of course he had to eat our jack-o'-lantern. He was starved." "Beatrice, dear," said Miss Quimby, "we simply cannot afford the brand of food Picky used to eat. Now, be reasonable." Beatrice was in no mood to be reasonable. "Then how come Daddy can afford to smoke?" she demanded to know. Mr. Quimby looked angry. "Young lady," he said, and when he called Beatrice young lady, Ramona knew her sister was in trouble. "Young lady, I've heard enough of that old tomcat and his food. My cigarettes are none of your business." Ramona expected Beatrice to say she was sorry, or burst into tears and run to her room. Instead, she put Picky out from under the table, held him to her chest as if she were shielding him from danger. "They are too my business," she informed her father. "Cigarettes can kill you. Your lungs will turn black and you'll die. We made posters about it in school. And besides, cigarettes pollute the air." Ramona was horrified by her sister's daring, and at the same time, she was a tiny bit pleased. Beatrice was actually well behaved, while Ramona was the one who had tantrums, when she was struck by the meaning of her sister's angry words and was frightened. "That's enough out of you," Mr. Quimby told Beatrice, "and let me remind you that if you had shut that cat in the basement as you were supposed to, this never would have happened. Miss Quimby silently placed the remains of the jack-o'-lantern in a plastic bag in the refrigerator. Beezus opened the basement door and gently set Picky on the top step. "Nighty-night," she said tenderly. "Young lady," began Mr. Quimby. "Young lady again! Now Beezus is really going to catch it. You are getting altogether too big for your britches lately. Just be careful how you talk around this house." Beezus did not say she was sorry. She did not burst into tears. She simply stalked off to her room. Ramona was the one who burst into tears. She didn't mind when she and Beezus quarreled. She even enjoyed a good fight now and then to clear the air, but she could not bear it when anyone else in the family quarreled. And those awful things Beezus said, were they true? "Don't cry, Ramona," said Miss Quimby, put her arm around her young daughter. "We'll get another pumpkin." "But it won't be as big," sobbed Ramona, who wasn't crying about the pumpkin at all. She was crying about important things like her father being cross so much, and now he wasn't working and his legs were turning black, and Beezus was getting so disagreeable when before she had always been so polite to grown-ups and anxious to do the right thing. "Come on, let's all go to bed and things will look brighter in the morning," said Mr. Quimby. In a few minutes, Mr. Quimby picked a package of cigarettes he had left on the kitchen table, shook one out, lit it, and sat down, still looking angry. Were his lungs turning black this very minute? Ramona wondered. How would anybody know when his lungs were inside him? She let her mother guide her to her room and tuck her in bed. "Now, you don't worry about your jack-o'-lantern. We'll get you another pumpkin. It won't be as big, but you'll have a jack-o'-lantern." Miss Quimby kissed Ramona good night. "Nighty-night," said Ramona in a muffled voice. As her mother left, she hopped out of bed and pulled her old panda bear out from under the bed and tucked it under her covers beside her for comfort. The bear must have been dusty because Ramona sneezed.
Gesundheit,
said Mr. Quimby, passing by her door. "We'll carve another jack-o'-lantern tomorrow. Don't worry." He was not angry with Ramona. Ramona snuggled down with her dusty bear. Didn't grown-ups think children worried about anything but jack-o'-lanterns? Didn't they know children worried about grown-ups? So that is the end of chapter 3. So let's show you the pictures. This is Picky. He doesn't want to eat the puss putty. And this is Ramona. And she went and got the spoon without being told because her family was happy. And Ramona is getting mad because Picky ate the pumpkin, or at least part of the pumpkin, so now just enough to ruin it. Oops. And then, wait. This is Ramona, and she's scared that maybe her father's lungs are turning black and he's gonna die. So that is the end of chapter 3.
and this is Grandma Carla and Hannah, and we love you.
Bye.